that's a really important question, is evaluating whether it's ecological. In other words, does it fit with everything in our life? Is it positive for every area?
I'm so glad that you're bringing that up, because with having worked with clients now for going on about 14 years, for the longest time it was really challenging to have people understand that there's a secondary gain sometimes to not being successful. And in the case that you're pointing out, the secondary gain to not getting that job is, I get to save my marriage. But many times we are not aware enough that that's what's going on to understand what the obstacle is. So even those of us who use intentionality and we sit down and we pray and we command the universal laws and we imagine it, feel it, breathe it, sense it in every single way, and then it doesn't manifest. What I've discovered is without fail, there's some reason why where you are is holding you in place. It's the comfort of not messing something up. For example, I've worked with clients who, once we created a well-formed outcome, and for those of you who are listening about how to create that, we're really talking about drilling down on that which you desire, and asking the questions around, well, how will I know when I get there? What will it look like? How will my life be different? What's the price I'm going to have to pay in order to achieve this goal? And am I willing to pay that price? Who suffers if I pay this price? And is that a suffering that I'm willing to endure? Those kind of questions, what have you. And but once you get to these secondary gains, where we realize I have a client who her goal was to lose weight, but she was saving up for her son to go to college, and she was afraid that if I lose weight right now, I won't be able to fit into my clothes, and I'll have to go buy new clothes in order to maintain my job, because I can't show up in clothes that are too big for me. So the timing's not right for me to spend a bunch of money, so it better not lose the weight. And none of that could she rationally pull forth. She wanted to lose weight, she was exercising, she was eating as healthy as she ever had, and the weight would not budge. And this is where intentionality comes into play. The secondary gain of, I better stay put because I don't want to spend any money on clothes, actually prevented her body from releasing the weight, even though she was doing everything right. Another client, something similar, only in her experience, she was afraid that she would be noticed. In her past, when she was a beautiful model, she had some really traumatic experiences, and one experience in particular violated her on the deepest level. And so she put on weight subconsciously as a means of protecting her. And in her mind, if I lose weight, I'm going to be noticed, and it's not safe to be seen. So even though with every ounce of her being she would say, I've got to lose weight, I want to lose weight, I'm exercising, I'm eating right, I'm doing all the right things, on a subconscious level she couldn't break free. And so that's when from those well-formed outcomes, we discovered what's the secondary gain to staying put? What's the price that you're not willing to pay? And from those questions, we were able to use the emotional freedom technique to flatline, to neutral that fear of not having money to buy a new wardrobe, that fear of spending her son's college money in order to buy clothes, and that fear for my other client, that fear of what it means to be noticed and to be seen and to not be safe and hidden by having the extra layer of weight around her. And once we neutralize those, sometimes other limiting beliefs and negative ideas about the safety of life appear. But for the most part, once you start in the process of realizing that we have secondary gains, that we have obstacles in our belief system that actually prevent us from manifesting what we want, from taking the steps more effortlessly towards success, and you start getting into that habit of neutralizing them with emotional freedom technique, they collapse and they go away, and the next thing you know, you're faced with, maybe I can do this. No. I'm going to do this.
I think another part of well-formed outcome that's really important is how you'll know when you get your outcome. That may sound rather strange, and yet I can give you an example of, you say you want to lose weight, but exactly how will you know when you've accomplished that? What's the, how will you look? What will other people be saying? What will you be thinking? And a full sensory experience of that. And even more, for example, I had a client who was wanting to be successful. Well, he drove up in a new Volvo. He had a penthouse. He had 2 real estate franchises in 2 different states. He was dressed, but then he was dressed, kind of shabby. And so I said, well, how will you know when you're successful? Well, he couldn't really pinpoint that. So I said, how would you know when somebody else is successful? And he says, well, they'd be driving a nice car. They'd be living in a nice apartment. And it turned out that he just had not defined what would success be for him. How would he know when he was successful? And when he got it, then I saw him a few weeks later, and he was dressed in some nice design suits, and and was feeling quite successful. So if we don't know when we've reached the goal, then we might just keep going. I mean, haven't you seen people who you would say they're highly successful, and they just keep on, and no matter what they achieve, then they don't feel that's enough, and they go for more, and they don't know when to stop, not even to enjoy themselves and relax, because they haven't defined, what is successful, or when is enough.
And I bet we have people on the call, myself included, that there are times when I haven't identified when am I there, when am I on that at that peak or at that finish line to where I can enjoy what I've just accomplished. And I certainly know plenty of people who, because they hadn't defined success or they hadn't defined what it was that they wanted to achieve, once they achieved it, they didn't stop going. It's actually, I find it very sad when I think about the missing opportunities in my life when I have achieved something and then not being able to slow down and acknowledge it or pat myself on the back or say, ooh, wasn't that fun, before I'm on to the next one, because I'm clearly not finished. And so I'm really glad that you brought up that example.